let us now create our bouncer. So I'm going to select the bouncer here in our sprites folder, set the sprite mode to multiple, uncheck generate bitmaps, set the max size to 512, format to true color, and hit apply. In our sprite editor, we are going to slice it the same way as we sliced our door. So we are going to go here, and from automatic we are going to change it to grid by cell size. For the pixel size, on the x-axis we are going to set at 145. For the y-axis is going to be 51, and we are going to offset it by 5. And when we slice it, this is what we have. We are also going to, let me just put it down at 10. So not 10, let's say 20 for the y, hit apply again. Let's say 50, hit apply. And finally, this is what we have, and this is what we are going to use. So now we can hit apply. And now what we are going to do is we are going to create, or first I'm going to drag our bouncer to image here in our editor, and I'm going to rename it to bouncer. And now we are going to create the animations for our bouncer. So I'm going to click on him and click on create animations. I'm going to save it in our animations and our bouncy animations folder. So create that folder and save these animations in that folder. This is going to be our up animation, and I'm going to set the frames per second at 30. And I'm going to drag this, so the image 2, then the image 1, and finally the last image, or the image 0. This is going to be our animation, and if I go back here and play the animation, this is what we have here. Let me just set the animation at 12, or frames per second at 12. And when I run it, well, not even 12, let's say 20. When I run it now, this is what we have, and we are going to use it. So this is going to be our animation. We are going to go here in our animator panel, and we are going to uncheck the loop from our animation. And we are going to copy and paste our animation. This is going to be our down animation. So here I'm simply going to rename it to down and set the speed to -1 to reverse, well, the speed and practically make it a down animation. Our down animation is going to be the default animation, so we are going to set it here. And what we are also going to do is we are going to apply a box collider on our bouncy. And I'm going to edit it. I'm going to set it something like this. So let me just select the bouncer again. And I'm going to put the collider something like here in the middle. Something like this. This is what we are going to use for our bouncy collider. And we can go here in our prefabs and bouncy prefabs and save it as a prefab. So now what we need to do is we need to go and create a script for it. So here I have my bouncy, or I did not create it. So I'm going to go in our bouncy scripts, and I'm going to go create, and I'm going to create our bouncy script and attach it on our bouncer and hit apply. So go here and hit apply so that that change applies to our prefab. We also need to open here our player script. And for our bouncy, what we need here is a public float, which is going to be force, and let's say it's equal to 500F. We also need a private, so a private animator, which I'm going to name anim. And in our awake function, so awake, I'm going to get our animator. So our anim is equal to get component passing the animator, so animator component that we want to get. And in our onTrigger enter, so void onTrigger enter 2D, which takes a collider, so collider 2D, I'm going to name it target. We are going to check if we collide with our player, then we are going to bounce our player off. We are also going to create here an eye enumerator, which is going to animate our bouncy, so animate bouncy. And what we are going to do here is we are going to use our anim.play, and we are going to play our up animation, so up. Then we are going to say yield return, new wait for seconds, and let's say half a second we are going to wait. And then what we are going to do is we are going to call our down animation. So then we are going to call our down animation. Here we are going to check if our target.tag is equal to our player. So if we have collided with the player, we need to bounce our player in the sky. And for that we need to go here in our player script, and here we need to create a public void function which is going to be called bounce player. So bounce player with bouncy, which is going to take a float force as a parameter. And here we are going to check again if we are grounded. Then our grounded is equal to false because now we are in the sky, and we are going to use my body that velocity is equal to new. So new vector 2, 0 for the x and force for the y, because we are going to bounce it off in the sky. And now what we are going to do here is we are going to say our target dot game object get component. Because we are bouncing the player, we are going to get our player script, the component from our player, and we need to say that bounce player with bouncy, passing our force as the parameter by which we want to bounce our player. And here we are also going to say start coroutine, passing our animate bouncy coroutine. So now if I run the game and we have the script attached on our bouncy, I'm going to place it here and also our player here. Now when I run the game, if we touch the bouncy, it's going to bounce our player off. So let me see what's happening here. So we have our bouncy and we need to set it to be a trigger and hit apply. Now when we run the game, it's going to bounce our player off, but it bounced our player so hard that our player went to the sky. So let's say jump force is, or excuse me, here for the bouncer, the force is going to be, oh, excuse me, now I noticed what I did wrong. So we need to go back here in our player script and not velocity, but instead we need to apply the force. So we need to say here, my body force and 0 for the x and force for the y. This is what happens. So I apply the force to the velocity. So we need to add force. And now if I go back, now when we touch our bouncy, it's going to bounce us off a little bit. So we see the bounce speed. We can also select our bouncy and let's say 800 for the force. And now it's going to bounce us off even further, and notice the bouncy, it's playing the animation up and then down. So up and down again. And we can, well, move the animation to be a little faster. So we can select our bouncer and set frames per second 12. And let's try now. So now we see the animation is playing even slower, 30 frames per second. It's going a little bit faster, or we can go here in our animator. So let's say 20 frames, but select the animator, the up animation, let's say twice the speed, and the down animation minus -2. Now when we run the game, we see the animation is playing a little bit faster. But anyway, this is our bouncy. And we can hit apply now, and also our force is set as a public variable so we can manipulate it. So let's say I set it at 900, and now when I run the game, we have bounced our player even further in the sky. So we are practically done with setting up our game and creating all of our game objects. What is left for us to do is create our menus and our levels, which we are going to do next.